Chapter 91 The Strange Dragon-Shaped Tree. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Weiwei Luling Mountain lies across the Lus Plateau. It is midsummer and Luling Mountain is lush and full of vitality. In a mountain village close to Luling Mountain, Zhao Xinyu wearing a mask and hat walks through the village. He is not raising him. The village where I grew up makes any stopover. In front of a lonely earthen grave in a forest near the mountain, Zhao Xinyu placed the purchased fruits and tributes in front of the grave, took out a jar of Zui Linglong from the space, poured 3 cups, and poured out the remaining Zui Linglong. Sprinkle it around the tomb, and instantly the whole area is filled with the aroma of wine. After offering incense, Zhao Xinyu kowtowed respectfully 3 times and began to burn the paper money. When the paper money was burned out, he covered it with soil. Zhao Xinyu got up and circled the grave several times. A few minutes later, Zhao Xinyu returned to the grave with a trace of doubt in his eyes. Last year, he saw the coffin being buried with his own eyes, and he built the surrounding grave with his own hands. Now, the grave has not changed at all. That's not to say. Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but shake his head. Maybe he really thought too much, and his grandfather really left him and went to a world without worries. After staying in front of the grave for more than 2 hours, Zhao Xinyu stood up with a long sigh, and then looked at Luling Mountain behind him. He moved towards Luling Mountain as soon as his mind moved. After he left, a voice flashed out from behind a big tree. The owner of the voice was plainly dressed, had white hair, and was even more stooped. The old man sighed quietly, his cloudy eyes suddenly became clear, and his face showed a hint of excitement that was difficult to conceal. "You brat, you still have a conscience and know how to come back and see me." The old man's eyes narrowed when he walked to the grave. He saw the almost empty wine jar on the ground, picked up the wine jar, smelled it, and then turned his head. "You stinky boy, you ruined such a good wine like this." How could Zhao Xinyu, who had already spread his body skills and entered the mountain, hear it? If he was still in front of the grave at this moment, he might have been moved to tears, but just because he had left for a few minutes, he did not see the person he thought he had already seen. The most respected old man will leave him forever. When he was young, he followed his grandfather into the mountains. Zhao Xinyu was very familiar with the way into the mountains. This time he went into the mountains mainly to enter the areas that his grandfather had once regarded as restricted areas. There are large beasts in those areas, but they also have old Chinese herbal medicines. Now he is no longer an ordinary person, and this time he comes back. He brings back the golden marks and golden feathers, plus the green wolves in the space as well as the recovered black wind. He was not worried about any trouble he would encounter in the mountains. When he arrived at the cliff where he picked up Jin Hen and Jin Yu, Zhao Xinyu took Jin Hen, Jin Yu and Haifeng out of the space and pointed at the cliff. "Jin Hen, Jin Yu, where should you be born?" Jin Hen and Jin Yu fluttered their wings and flew to the cliff. Low humming sounds echoed in the mountains and forests. The 2 guys seemed to be telling something. When they brought Jin Hen and Jin Yu to the place where their parents were buried, Jin Hen and Jin Yu kept wailing. "I went to the area where my grandfather often took me to." Zhao Xinyu also stood there for a long time, with tears in his eyes, paying homage to his grandfather who had left him and who was once famous in the dark world. Ghost Doctor. After passing through that area, Zhao Xinyu quickly entered the mountain forest where he was chased by the wild boar last time. Perhaps it was destined that less than 20 minutes after entering this mountain forest, Haifeng leaned towards Zhao Xinyu. Xinyu growled a few times. Zhao Xinyu saw a group of wild boars about 500 to 600 meters away from them. There were more than 20 wild boars, and the largest one in the middle weighed almost 200 kilograms. Zhao Xinyu didn't need to say anything at all. Jin Hen and Jin Yu raised their heads to the sky and rushed towards the wild boars with a long cry. Haifeng followed. Zhao Xinyu was also worried that there were too many wild boars and Haifeng and the others would suffer, so he simply sent the green wolves in the space away. Bring out the space. When the wild boars saw the golden marks, golden feathers and black wind like calves in the sky, they also had a bad premonition. After the green wolves appeared, they turned around and ran away without any thought, but their speed simply limited their chance of escape. Black Wind was behind the largest wild boar in a moment. Sensing danger, the wild boar turned around and thrust its 1-foot-long tusks at Black Wind. Hafen moved his body and nimbly dodged the wild boar's blow. He left a gash on the wild boar's body. However, because the wild boar's armor mixed with pine resin and soil was too thick, this gash did not cause much harm to the wild boar. At this time, the Green Wolf pack had already surrounded them. Green Wolf King, Black Wind, and Blue Wolf launched counterattacks, and within a few minutes, the 200-pound wild boar fell to the ground with a howl. Over there, Jin Hen and Xinyu, with the help of other green wolves, managed to kill 2 wild boars weighing 1,560 kilograms. Okay. Seeing that 3 wild boars had been killed, Zhao Xinyu hurriedly stopped him. There were rules for survival in the forest. If they killed all the wild boars, they would have broken the rules of the forest. Maybe a series of problems will arise in the region. Looking at the wild boars that had escaped, Zhao Xinyu did not move forward, but directly took out tools to clean up the wild boars. The green wolves automatically went out to pick up dead branches like they did in Kailiang Mountain, burying the wild boar's internal organs and fur deep in the ground. Zhao Xinyu glanced at the wild boar's exposed tusks, his eyes flickered a few times, and he pulled out the wild boar's tusks and put them away. After marinating the wild boar, he lit the dead branches picked up by the green wolves. When the fire dissipated and only the fine fire remained, Zhao Xinyu threaded a wild boar leg onto a thick branch and set it on the fire to start grilling. As the aroma of meat filled the air, the green wolf group, Black Wind, Jin Hen, and Xinyu all gathered around Zhao Xinyu. They all stared at the constantly turning pig legs, their eyes full of heat. After applying the seasoning several times, Zhao Xinyu pressed the wild boar leg a few times, took it off and placed it on a pile of dead branches, and then picked up another wild boar leg. It took more than 2 hours to finish cooking all 3 wild boars. Zhao Xinyu distributed the roasted wild boars, and a group of guys who couldn't bear it began to eat the wild boar meat. The barbecue took more than 2 hours, but a group of guys only spent less than 10 minutes, and all 3 wild boars were eaten clean by them. After eating, Zhao Xinyu collected and buried the remaining residue and broken bones, then took out the watermelon from the space, opened it, and separated the group of guys. After resting for more than half an hour, Zhao Xinyu got up and continued to wander in the forest with a group of guys. With the green wolves and wild boar groups, they did not dare to approach. The Chinese herbal medicine growing in this mountain forest became his trophy. Suddenly, Haifeng's low roar caught Zhao Xinyu's attention. Zhao Xinyu quickly walked towards the area where Haifeng was. It was a ravine more than 10 meters deep. There was a stream with a large amount of water in the ravine. Different from the area he just walked in, there were no towering ancient trees on both sides of the stream, and some were only sour trees no more than 2 meters long. He saw Haifeng standing under a strange, crooked tree that was almost 1.56 meters tall and growling at him. Zhao Xinyu's heart moved. He walked around several clusters of sour trees before reaching Haifeng, and then his eyes fell on the strange tree. The trunk of the strange tree is about the thickness of a bowl, but the mottled bark is covered with traces of time, as dry and cracked as the big hands of an old man who has worked hard all his life. Although Zhao Xinyu, who often goes to the mountains with his grandfather, does not know what the strange tree in front of him is, he does know that this strange tree has not necessarily existed for less time than those towering ancient trees. It is even older than those towering ancient trees. Ancient wood, the crown leaves of the strange tree were not the well-known emerald green, but red. Looking at the crown and the twisting trunks, Zhao Xinyu's heart moved, as if he saw a twisting and rising dragon. This is... Zhao Xinyu was shocked. Today, with the development of science and technology, there are people who specialize in root carving, but the strange tree in front of him does not need to be carved at all. Just like the giant dragon, this strange tree is what we need now. You can also sell it for a good price when you go out. Haifeng didn't understand root carving, but he was calling him here. Obviously, this strange tree must have other functions. At this moment, he just hated that Haifeng couldn't speak. If Haifeng could talk, he would know that this strange tree was what. He took out the tool from the space to dig, and after just a few digs, Zhao Xinyu's eyes showed a trace of surprise. Even though the soil around the strange tree was exactly the same as the soil in other areas, it was extremely hard. A shovel could only leave behind a trace. Under normal circumstances, Zhao Xinyu would have given up, but now he could feel that this strange tree must be extraordinary. After spending more than half an hour, Zhao Xinyu got the top layer of soil and looked at the exposed blood-red roots. Zhao Xinyu was dumbfounded. He saw that the roots below were thicker than the trunk of the plant and were as thin as an arm. The roots are densely packed. However, feeling that this strange tree was extraordinary, Zhao Xinyu could only continue digging. It was after 8 o'clock in the evening that this strange tree was dug up. Looking at the several roots covering an area of almost 100 square meters, Zhao Xinyu's eyes flickered continuously. The trunk is as thick as a bowl but has several well-developed root systems. What kind of strange tree is it? The next moment after the strange tree was transplanted into the space trembled violently. Zhao Xinyu's heart moved, and he immediately entered the space with Heifeng, Jinhen, Jinyu, and the Green Wolf King. He saw that the area of space increased at a speed visible to the naked eye, the clouds in the sky rolled, and the looming star seemed to become clearer. After so many space changes, he knew that the energy induced by the space changes was good for him. He didn't care about watching the changes in the strange tree. He sat down cross-legged and began to practice the Hongmeng mantra. Like Zhao Xinyu, Jinhen, Jinyu, Heifeng, and even the Green Wolf King, when they entered the space, they did not usually get into the vegetable field or the fruit forest. They all chose their own positions. Selfless devourers kept surging. Energy of, at the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 92, a series of surprises. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me, that I don't know how long it took for the space to stop changing. Zhao Xinyu slowly opened his eyes. A brilliant light flashed and his eyes returned to clarity. After getting up and feeling the changes in his body, Zhao Xinyu felt happy. This change in space allowed his Hongmeng Sutra to break through from the first level to the second level, which he had never thought of. After looking at Heifeng, Jinhen, and Jinyu who were still hesitating, Zhao Xinyu's eyes fell on the strange tree. He saw that after this change in space, the strange tree had grown to more than 2 meters, and there were not many trees. The changes made it look even more like a flying dragon, and there seemed to be a faint layer of mist on the crown and trunk of the strange tree, giving it a sense of dragon soaring. When approaching the strange tree, Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled. He saw 9 finger-sized flower buds on the branches of the red crown. What is this? Zhao Xinyu was confused. Last time it was the blue blood red heart tea tree, and this time it was this strange tree. Both of these 2 seemingly inconspicuous trees caused great changes in the space. People with Du Gang status are full of praise for the blue blood pill heart, and according to Du Mengnan, after his grandfather drank the blue blood pill heart, many of his minor problems have disappeared. Now there is such a strange tree again, and there are flower bones on it, which makes Zhao Xinyu a little bit excited about what kind of surprise this strange tree will bring to him. Looking at the space again, the space area has reached more than 300 acres, which is almost comparable to a farm. Zhao Xinyu still doesn't know how big this space will eventually be. As space changes, species also change. Not to mention the expansion of the area of vegetables and fruits. Just talking about tomatoes, even if you take them out now, people can't believe that it is a tomato, because the tomato seedlings in the space at this moment are like small trees. Likewise, there are at least dozens of kilograms of tomatoes on each tomato plant. Knowing that it was already night outside, Zhao Xinyu was not in a hurry to go out. He strolled around the space until he reached the area where Laoshan ginseng grew. The old wild ginseng has not changed much, but the whorled leaves on the surrounding old wild ginseng have changed. Judging from the whorled leaves, these ginseng seeds that were only planted last year are now 10 years old. In the area where the fungus was, the color of the Ganoderma lucidum hidden in the fungus became darker. It looked like it was at least 50 years old. What surprised Zhao Xinyu was that a small patch of Ganoderma lucidum was also growing around it. A dozen small Ganoderma lucidum flowers. As for the wild mushrooms that can be seen everywhere in the fruit forests, if you pick the wild mushrooms in the space and sell them, you can earn at least hundreds of thousands of dollars. While feeling emotional, Zhao Xinyu did not forget his grandfather's last wish. He picked up an ancient Chinese medicine book and started reading it in the space. When Zhao Xinyu came out of the space with Heifeng, Jin Hen, Jinyu, and Green Wolf King, he first buried the big hole on the ground, and then his eyes fell on the stream with a large amount of water in the ravine. There is such a strange tree that changes the space on the edge of the stream. Is there any species in front of it that can cause changes in the space? Going up the stream, a few kilometers out, Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled when he saw a group of animals that looked like sheep but not sheep, with tawny fur. Yellow sheep are a species found in the mountains in the north. The size of yellow sheep is much larger than domestic sheep. When he was young, his grandfather also brought back yellow sheep. Zhao Xinyu still remembers the tender and delicious yellow sheep. Smell. Thinking about the vast space, Zhao Xinyu patted Heifeng and Green Wolf King, go and catch some yellow sheep cubs. The green wolf is the natural enemy of the yellow sheep. As soon as they appeared, the yellow sheep group exploded in the camp. In more than 10 minutes, Zhao Xinyu heard the low roar of the black wind in the distance. A group of green wolves were watching eagerly around a field of wild grass half as tall as a man. In their encirclement, Zhao Xinyu saw 12 yellow sheep, 4 large and 8 small. Each yellow sheep was trembling, and one of them was pregnant. The sheep's eyes were filled with tears, and there were several shallow wounds on his back. This was what Zhao Xinyu ordered them to capture alive. If Zhao Xinyu had not said anything, perhaps these 12 yellow sheep would have become 12 corpses at this moment. Entering the grass, the yellow sheep seemed to feel that maybe Zhao Xinyu could save them. The female yellow sheep bleated several times at Zhao Xinyu, and the sound was very miserable. Zhao Xinyu sighed slightly, raised his hand and stroked the yellow sheep's body a few times. Don't worry, they won't hurt you. As he spoke, he took the 12 yellow sheep into the space. Continuing to swim upstream, although I did not encounter any species that could cause great changes in the space, I did harvest a lot of old herbs. On this day, Zhao Xinyu discovered that the water volume in the stream had increased, and some small black fish like tadpoles appeared in the water flow. After seeing the small black fish as big as a tadpole, Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but look up to a valley at the end of the ravine with joy on his face. Then he walked quickly towards the valley. Others may not know this little black fish, but Zhao Xinyu knows it. This kind of fish is called anchovies. It tastes extremely delicious. It was often seen in the streams in the village. However, after the streams disappeared, he did not eat them. Over anchovy mullet, even though the larvae of the mullet are black, when they grow up, the color will turn into rouge, and they also have this beautiful tail. In an extremely quiet valley full of towering ancient trees, Zhao Xinyu saw a small lake with an area of more than 10 acres. There were many pheasants, hares, and foxes around the lake. When Zhao Xinyu appeared, these small animals seemed to be flying. Escape into the jungle. There is not a single weed beside the lake, and there is only fine white sand. The overflowing lake water flows into the jungle. The lake water is extremely clear, and red anchovies more than a foot long are swimming carefree in the lake water. Zhao Xinyu, who knew the habits of the mullet fish, casually took out a few vegetable leaves from the space and threw them into the lake. The lake water instantly rolled, and the area where the vegetable leaves floated instantly turned red. Looking at the mullet eating the vegetable leaves, Zhao Xinyu showed a hint of joy in his eyes. He took out a bucket from space, poured space water into the bucket, then stretched the bucket into the lake, and put a few vegetable leaves. After a sound of waves, 7 or 8 more than 1 foot long mullet fish appeared in the bucket. He lifted the bucket and put the mullet fish into the lake in space. He stretched the bucket into the lake again. More than half an hour later, Zhao Xinyu estimated that there were at least 100 or dozens more mullet fish in the space, and he lifted the bucket out. The next moment, Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but froze, and then he said a curse word. Damn, no. How can there be a ghost fish here? In addition to the rouge-colored mullet fish, there are 3 small fish in the bucket that are all dark blue and only about the size of a thumb, like the spindles. People used to spin yarn in the past. The stingray is an extremely rare fish. Zhao Xinyu has never seen it, but heard his grandfather once say that the stingy fish is too small to be eaten, but the stingy fish has unique effects. The oil extracted from the underworld fish is added to the ointment for healing wounds, which can heal the wound quickly without leaving any scars. After obtaining the golden chamber essence, Zhao Xinyu also saw records of the underworld fish in the golden chamber essence. The golden chamber essence described the underworld fish as a fish from the underworld. The swimming speed is extremely fast, comparable to lightning. In the world where humans live, ghost fish cannot be seen at all. In the era when ancient martial arts were popular, ghost fish were treasures in the eyes of ancient martial arts practitioners. The golden medicine refined from ghost fish is almost it can reach the point where the living dead heal the bones. However, Zhao Xinyu had only seen records of the underworld fish in the essentials of the golden chamber, but there was no record of the underworld fish in other ancient medical books. He did not expect to see the underworld fish in the Lulang mountain where he once lived. With infinite excitement, Zhao Xinyu carefully sent the bucket into the lake in space, and then with a hint of excitement, he put the bucket filled with space water into the lake again. In half an hour, more than 100 mullet fish were harvested, but only 5 fish were seen. Although the number was not many, Zhao Xinyu was already very excited. He knew the role of the space lake. It would not take long for the lake to a swarm of underworld fish will breed among them. Looking at the mullet fish that occasionally appeared in the lake, Zhao Xinyu shook his head. There was a reason for the mullet fish to appear in this lake. He didn't want to think that the mullet fish would disappear in Lulang mountain because of himself. He put away the bucket and planned to leave the valley, but just when he turned around, a breeze blew, and a faint fragrance entered his nose with the wind. He was slightly stunned and turned his head to look in one direction of the valley. Passing through the ancient forest, his eyes suddenly lit up and he saw a grassland the size of a basketball court. At the end of the grassland was a cliff. The cliff was not bare. It was covered with grape-like vines, as big as the mouth of a bowl. There are clusters of golden fruits the size of pigeon eggs under the leaves, and a strong fragrance wafts from the vines into Zhao Xinyu's nose. After stepping into the grass and walking a few steps, Zhao Xinyu froze and saw light yellow mushrooms with wrinkled caps in the grass. Morels, Zhao Xinyu was delighted. You can rely on mountains to eat mountains and water to eat water. There are many mountain products in Lulang mountain, and there are more fungi. The most valuable one is morels. Compared with the wild mountain mushrooms that cost hundreds of pounds per pound in the current market, morels can be purchased at sky-high prices. To describe it, while wild morels are more expensive. Not to mention this day and age, even when living in poverty, a pound of morels could keep the 3 of them alive for more than a month. Now that there was that heaven-defying space, Zhao Xinyu would not miss it. He took out the shovel and moved not only the morels, but also the grass with the mycelium of the morels into the space. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 93, Chance Encounter or Fate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. When moving the morels and soil into the space, Zhao Xinyu also saw that there are 2 types of fungi that can be commonly seen on the grass. One is the snow-white Caprinus comatus, and the other is about the same size as the enoki mushroom, but the cap is much larger than the golden mushroom, and the color is light blue. Although the taste of Caprinus comatus and green mushrooms is not as good as morels, they are similar to wild mountain mushrooms and have different tastes. In that era, they were also Zhao Xinyu's favorite dishes. After transplanting all the grass with mycelium into the space, Zhao Xinyu looked at the ground as if wild boars were arching over it. He leveled the grass again. Living near the mountains, he knew that the place would return to its original state in a few days. Look like, carrying a shovel, Zhao Xinyu came to the cliff and took a look at the grape-like vines. His eyes lit up. The snake vine fruit is a unique species in Lulang mountain. When he was a child, he heard his grandfather talk about snake vine fruit, saying that snake vine fruit is a fruit watered by countless venomous snakes with their saliva. Not only is the snake vine fruit delicious, but it also has a detoxifying effect. In the summer, the snake vine fruit grows in the area. Not even mosquitoes will come near, it's just that he only heard his grandfather talk about the snake vine fruit. He has never eaten it. He only heard his grandfather talk about the appearance of the snake vine fruit. Zhao Xinyu lowered his head and took a few glances under the vine. He was also worried that the snake vine fruit was really watered by the saliva of a venomous snake. If it were a venomous snake, it would be troublesome. But what made him happy was that he didn't see any poisonous insects under the vines. This reassured him, so he reached out and picked a snake vine fruit and took a bite. After taking a sip, Zhao Xinyu's eyes showed a hint of ecstasy. The snake vine fruit was just like a strawberry, with a sweet taste mixed with a hint of sourness. It melted in the mouth. After swallowing, the pores all over his body seemed to open, and the breath he exhaled was filled with a touch of freshness. Good stuff. This snake vine fruit is really good stuff. It's worthy of being a good stuff that people like my grandpa who often go to the mountains often talk about. After tasting the snake vine fruit, Zhao Xinyu squatted down and started transplanting the snake vine fruit. When the first snake vine fruit entered the space changed, but the change was not too drastic, and Zhao Xinyu did not return. Half an hour later, looking at the sparse snake vines on the cliff, Zhao Xinyu nodded with satisfaction. Since snake vines can grow in this area, maybe in 1 or 2 years, the snake vines will be planted again here. After walking out of the valley, Zhao Xinyu looked around and thought about Zhihanling. He couldn't help but sigh. He had only 7 or 8 days to go into the mountain and a few days to go out. When he returned to Zhihanling, it would be almost time for school to start. If he was given some more time, he would really not want to leave Luling Mountain so quickly. Grandpa had told him that there were many good things in Luling Mountain that were not available outside, but now the lack of time does not allow him to stay too long in Luling Mountain, so he can only turn back. However, with 3 partners, Jin Hen, Jin Yu, and Heifeng, he is not worried that he will get lost in Luling Mountain. He chooses take a direction that has not been taken before. The new path allowed him to harvest quickly. Among the rocks on the mountainside, clusters of green plants with slender leaves of 50 to 60 centimeters caught Shipley's attention. There was a tree at the junction of the leaves and the trunk. A spindle-shaped emerald green fruit about the size of an egg, qiao guagua is what people in the village call it. Zhao Xinyu doesn't know its specific name in botany. He just knows that qiao guagua is crispy and sweet, and its juice is like milk. At that time, every midsummer, he and his younger brother Zhao Xinqing would look for qiao guagua near the mountain pass. He didn't need to eat at all during the day. Qiao guagua could fill his stomach. If a large number of qiaogua melons are picked, they will often squeeze the juice out of them using local methods. At that time, a bottle of qiaogua melon juice is the best drink for them. Knowing that the melons can be found everywhere in the mountains, Zhao Xinyu was not polite and transplanted all the melons in this area into the space. There were constant gains along the way, and of course they also encountered packs of wolves and wild boars, but with the black wind, golden hen, golden feather and green wolf packs, Zhao Xinyu did not encounter any trouble. What makes Zhao Xinyu a little regretful is that he has not encountered the tigers that the old people said. He knows that tigers are very scarce now, and he does not know what kind of tigers there are in Luling Mountain, but he wants to see them with his own eyes. One time. But things didn't go as planned. What he wanted to see did not appear. With this regret, Zhao Xinyu left Luling Mountain and went directly to Pingcheng. Thinking that it would not be easy to go back to his hometown, he did not rush to buy a ticket, but went to the largest local product market. He wanted to buy some for Du Mengnan and the others. Local souvenirs. He took a taxi to the souvenir market. As soon as he got out of the car, a girl with a curvy figure and a beautiful face wearing denim clothes and carrying a backpack came into his sight. When he saw this girl, Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled, with a trace of doubt in his eyes as to why she came to Pingcheng. That girl with the stunning face was the one Zhao Xinyu saved Guan Bingtong in Pingcheng last time, and later found a hotel for Guan Bingtong. After finishing his work, Zhao Xinyu went to look for her once, but Guan Bingtong had already checked out and left. Zhao Xinyu only knew that Guan Bingtong was from Yangqing, and he didn't know what she did specifically. Yangqing was more than 1,000 miles away from Pingqing, so what was she doing in Pingqing? Just when Zhao Xinyu was confused, he saw Guan Bingtong, who was standing in front of a local specialty stall, suddenly leave and quickly follow a middle-aged man in his 30s with a sinister face. Zhao Xinyu's head turned black and he was a little speechless. This silly woman, if it wasn't for her last time, she would have been doomed. Now that she saw her again, she took the initiative to follow a middle-aged man who didn't look like a good person. She was what to do. If he didn't know Guan Bingtong, Zhao Xinyu might not think much about it, but when he met Guan Bingtong thousands of miles away in Pingqing, he had to take care of it. Zhao Xinyu shook his head and slung his backpack across his shoulders. He lowered his head and followed quickly. At a street intersection, a middle-aged man got into a taxi. Guan Bingtong also took a taxi. Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but with a wry smile, he had no choice. He didn't want to see Guan Bingtong get into trouble, so he could only stop a car and follow him. There are intensive traffic under the winding mountains in the northeast of Pingqing. This is Hongyan Temple, a famous tourist attraction in Pingqing. Although Hongyan Temple is far away from Pingqing City, it is said that making wishes at Hongyan Temple is very effective, so I come here every day. There are many people making wishes at Hongyan Temple. In a jungle far away from Hongyan Temple, Guan Bingtong stared at a middle-aged man with a fleshy face carrying a box not far away, his eyes full of coldness. This middle-aged man was a key criminal she was chasing. She received news that this key criminal was going to trade a batch of weapons here, and he followed him all the way from Yangqing. With a loud laugh, a middle-aged man wearing glasses and a hat appeared in the jungle, also holding a small box in his hand. Guan Bingtong immediately took out her mobile phone and started shooting. She took their respective boxes and opened them and took a few glances at them. The two hugged each other. When Guan Bingtong put away her mobile phone, she was about to take action, but as soon as she moved, her body shook violently, a big hand covered her mouth, and the other hand held her down. Guan Bingtong's expression changed, and she was about to resist as soon as she backhanded her, but the next moment she heard a voice in her ears, "Don't move, there are people over there." Hearing this voice, Guan Bingtong's delicate body was shocked again. She was from the Special Forces team and she was extremely sensitive to sounds, but this voice was something she would never forget in her life. Guan Bingtong turned her head and looked behind her. She saw a face that she had seen countless times through photos. This face had once made her embarrassed, but it also saved her from being humiliated. "You." Guan Bingtong just said one word, but Zhao Xinyu raised his finger and pointed to two other places. Guan Bingtong's expression changed immediately. She saw people wearing hats and masks behind several other big trees, and they all had wearing equipment that is expressly prohibited by the state. Guan Bingtong glanced at Zhao Xinyu with gratitude. She knew that if she had just rushed out rashly, not to mention catching those two people, it would be difficult to say whether she could survive. Suddenly Zhao Xinyu pushed her down violently. Guan Bingtong did not react and turned to look at Zhao Xinyu. The next moment they landed, their mouths happened to meet. Guan Bingtong's pretty face turned red, and there was a hint of coldness in her eyes, but the next moment there was a clicking sound, and a piece of sawdust instantly shot out from the big tree where they had just been hiding. "Someone, kill them," the middle-aged man with a sinister face said angrily. While speaking, he and the contact person quickly walked towards the distance. Zhao Xinyu rolled with Guan Bingtong in his arms, and his body instantly rolled out for several meters and disappeared into the grass. He looked down at Guan Bingtong and did not move. Guan Bingtong, who was pinned down, felt the breath of Zhao Xinyu's body. Her pretty face turned crimson, but her heart was full of shock. Why did this guy react like this? Suddenly Zhao Xinyu's body moved, and Guan Bingtong felt another pain in the forbidden area of her body. Zhao Xinyu's body had already gone out for several meters, and then several muffled sounds came. "Okay, you can come out now." Guan Bingtong rubbed the sore area, stood up and looked at Zhao Xinyu. He saw 6 people wearing masks and hats lying on the ground, and beside them were guns smoking. Guan Bingtong was in a daze at this moment. 6 guys holding weapons were taken care of by this guy at this moment. Who is this guy? Someone is coming. I'm leaving first. Remember not to say you've seen me. Zhao Xinyu suddenly looked in one direction and whispered. Then he moved. In just a few breaths, Guan Bingtong couldn't see Zhao Xinyu. Xinyu's figure. Damn guy, Guan Bingtong looked at the direction in which Zhao Xinyu disappeared, feeling a sense of disappointment suddenly surged in her heart. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 94 Storm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Xinyu, your trip to your hometown this time is like purchasing goods. Every time you bring back so many things, what is it this time? In front of the compound, Hanli looked at the big box on the pickup truck and asked with a smile. Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, this time it's some local specialties from our place. I bought some for everyone to try. Hanli, you can share them with people later. Remember to leave some for Mengnan. I know, if you don't give it to anyone, you have to keep it for your sister-in-law. By the way, your sister-in-law came over just now, and she asked you when you would come back. Why is your phone turned off when you return to your hometown? Zhao Xinyu was stunned for a moment, then laughed. He had been in the mountains for those few days, and he was so busy coming back just after leaving the mountains that he really forgot to charge his mobile phone. Carrying the bulging bag, Zhao Xinyu hurried back home, charged and turned on the phone, and made a call to Du Mengnan. Soon Du Mengnan drove over. As soon as he entered the door, Du Mengnan twisted him hard and said, why don't you even turn on your phone? Have you done something bad? Zhao Xinyu laughed, put his arms around Du Mengnan, and kissed her hard. After a long time, the two separated. Du Mengnan's pretty face was red, and she held Zhao Xinyu's arm. As soon as you come back, my heart will follow you. Zhao Xinyu raised his hand and pinched Du Mengnan's pretty face. Meng, look, what delicious food I brought you. What? Zhao Xinyu opened his backpack and took out 2 bags from it. One bag contained snake vine fruits and the other bag contained xiaoguagua. Looking at the golden snake vine fruit and the emerald green melon, the well-informed Du Mengnan was stunned. She had never seen either of these 2 fragrant fruits. Try it and see how it tastes. If you think it's good, I plan to plant it in the yard next year. After washing the snake vine fruit and xiaoguagua, Du Mengnan picked up the xiaoguagua and took a bite. After one bite, milk-like juice was left in the corners of his mouth. It's delicious, it's delicious. Du Mengnan's eyes lit up after just one bite, and she picked up another one casually. A few minutes later, Du Mengnan had killed 4 melons and 6 snake vines, but his hands and face were stained with a lot of juice like a child. Zhao Xinyu, what kind of fruit is this? It's so delicious. This is my first time eating this. This is the snake vine fruit, and that one is the xiaoguagua. I picked them from the mountains. Variety, a little variety of these 2, it will definitely be popular. After saying this, Du Mengnan couldn't help but feel happy. After eating grapes and drinking Purple Emperor, he asked Zhao Xinyu to grow grapes. Now he has eaten snake vine fruits and walnut melons, and asked him to grow snake vine fruits and walnut melons. Thinking that this guy could bring him surprises every time, Du Mengnan felt more and more that he couldn't see through this guy. I'll make some plans later. After saying this, Zhao Xinyu thought of something else. He smiled and said, Meng, I will give you another surprise in a few days. What a surprise, tell me quickly. You will know in a few days, and you will definitely be happy. By the way, take these snake vine fruits and melons back to Grandpa to taste when you leave. I will make them for you if you want to eat them. Just a few days later, fishing friends in Luoshui suddenly discovered that in addition to the carp, cushion carp, grass carp, and herring they could see every day, there was a carmine with a rouge-red tail that looked like an anchovy's tail. A fish that has never been seen before. After seeing this fish, fishing friends were the first to take photos, upload videos to Moments, and ask online what kind of fish it was. Then the internet and WeChat Moments became popular. Netizens looked up information one after another, wanting to know what kind of fish it was. The color was beautiful, and it also had a phoenix-like tail. This was much better than the ornamental fish. The expensive luohan fish and arowana are so beautiful. People's heated discussions and forwarding also attracted the attention of some animal experts. After research and information review, they finally came to the conclusion that this fish is a type of mullet called anchovy mullet. It has richer nutritional value than snakehead fish and salamander. However, mullet fish haven't seen it in decades. The anchovy mullet has extremely strict environmental requirements. If the water source is even slightly polluted, the anchovy mullet will die. While making this conclusion, animal environmental organizations called on Xiaohengling to protect the anchovy mullet so that they can grow better. At this time, Luo Shui became lively. Thousands of people came to take pictures every day, and Zhao Xinyu was taken away for a few days because of this incident. Fortunately, he did not sell the anchovies privately, nor did he just be fined, educated, but when he came back, there were no mullet fish in Luo Shui, and they were all taken away by the Animal Protection Organization. This made sure Zhao Xinyu very depressed. He originally thought that he would have another delicious fish here, but instead in no mood. But in the next few days, news suddenly broke out on the internet that made everyone angry. Hundreds of anchovies brought back by animal environmental organizations all died within a few days. As soon as the news spread, there was an outcry on the internet. For more than 10 days, nothing happened to the mullet fish in Luo Shui, but they all died after being taken away by the Animal Protection Organization. They said that Zhao Xinyu was selling endangered fish, but not one of Zhao Xinyu's fish died, and none of them survived in their hands. Who are they? In the end, the Animal Protection Organization made a review and the relevant personnel were suspended for inspection. However, even this could not calm people's anger. Netizens demanded a thorough investigation into the truth of the matter. Subsequently, the investigation results that made netizens even more angry came out. The hundreds of anchovies brought back did not die, but were half-eaten by the so-called conservation experts. The remaining half were sold at a high price. However, due to various reasons, only less than 10 of them have been sold so far, while all members of the Animal Protection Organization were under investigation, punished and even prosecuted. The National Animal Protection Organization returned the remaining 10 or so remaining anchovy mullets to Luo Shui, and at the same time declared Luo Shui a legal place for anchovy mullet breeding base. If the anchovy becomes large in the future, Zhao Xinyu, the owner of Xiaohengling Luo Shui, has the right to deal with the anchovy to a certain extent. The country took action, and the anchovy mullet incident gradually calmed down. However, for people who like fish farming and photography, this incident had a big impact on them. In the past, the anchovy mullet fish could be randomly dispatched, but now it takes a lot of time. Only then can it be photographed. Zhao Xinyu didn't pay too much attention to the farce of the mullet fish. He was busy with the opening of the school. After more than a month of preparation, the school has recruited all the teachers, and the school has enrolled a record number of more than 1,200 students. These are only students from the surrounding villages, such as students from Xiaohengling Middle School in the urban area. Not one was included. On September 1st, after Zhao Xinyu packed up, he went to Xiaohengling School. However, before arriving at the school gate, Zhao Xinyu saw a car in front of the school gate. The driver of the car was arguing with the villagers guarding the gate. It was because he didn't know what the quarrel was about. When Zhao Xinyu saw the car parked in front of the door, he felt a little angry. You must know that he and Zhang Jinhong have discussed that except for vehicles delivering food and purchasing supplies, no one's vehicles can enter the school. It was now the time when students were reporting for school, but they parked their cars in front of the gate, which made Zhao Xinyu dissatisfied. Uncle Qi, what's going on? That when the villager watching the gate saw Zhao Xinyu, he hurriedly said, I told him that vehicles are not allowed to enter the school, but he just refused to listen. Open your fucking eyes and take a look. This is Director Zhang's car. Do you know how busy Director Zhang is? In the midst of his busy schedule, I heard that this shabby school of yours has started. Come and investigate. Do you still want to continue running this school? The middle-aged man driving the car said angrily. Zhao Xinyu's face turned cold. Uncle Chi, have any leaders from the bureau come to our school since it was rebuilt? No, Uncle Chi, who didn't understand what Zhao Xinyu meant, said quickly. Zhao Xinyu smiled coldly and turned to stare at the middle-aged man with a big belly. Did you hear that? Move the car and get out of here immediately. Just wait for me. Zhao Xinyu ignored him and entered the school. At this moment, colorful flags were fluttering in front of the teaching building. There was a table in front of the building. There were more than a dozen people sitting behind the table, but Zhao Xinyu did not recognize any of them, and a cameraman is filming something. The people watching around were all villagers. They all looked at the people on and off the stage with strange expressions, just like the rural people watching the monkeys. Seeing this scene, Zhao Xinyu was even more angry. He walked towards the teaching building gloomily. He wanted to know who these people were and what they were doing here. When Zhao Xinyu walked over, Zhang Jinhong came over to meet him, with a hint of embarrassment on his face. Xinyu, they are all from the bureau, they. Zhao Xinyu sighed slightly. Principal Zhang, we didn't build the school for them to show off. I won't run the school if it's too big. I don't want the school to become a place for them to make money. Zhao Xinyu squeezed into the crowd, and he heard a voice coming from inside. Comrade Wang Qing, who is in charge of education, is invited to speak below. Everyone is welcome. But the villagers sending their children to school in the audience did not care about this. Looking coldly at the people on the stage, except for the applause of a few people on the stage, the people below didn't even raise their hands. The villagers have sharp eyes. Although they are not villagers from Zaihanling, they know that everything in the school, including the canteen and teachers, is paid for by one person. From the establishment of the school to the present, it has been people from Zaihanling. Take care of it. Now that the school is built, some people come to take advantage of it. This is what they can't stand the most. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 95, Rage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. After the school renovation was to be carried out in Zaihanling, we studied all night and discussed with our brother departments to raise 3 million yuan. Just these words made Zhao Xinyu angry. He shook off Zhang Jinhong's hand and walked towards the bald middle-aged man who spoke with a cold face. I want to know where the funds you raised are located. Zaihanling School. I remember that from the time we planned to rebuild the school, only one brother-in-law, Shirkan, from some bureau came here. Could it be that he was the person you sent to help rebuild the school? Zhao Xinyu's words were merciless and made more than a dozen people on the stage freeze. The 2 people filming the live broadcast also forgot to turn off the camera, and everything was broadcast live. Wang Qing was stunned for a moment, frowned, and glanced at Zhao Xinyu, who was wearing ordinary clothes. He chuckled when he thought that Zhao Xinyu was just a parent at most. How can you, a parent of a student, know these things? Look at the teaching buildings, canteens, and dormitories. There are no funds we have raised in any of them. At this time, a voice from the crowd said, it seems that you don't have any funds there. You don't even know him. Why are you pretending to be a big-tailed wolf? Every brick, tile, plant and tree in this school is all for him. Money. A villager from Zaihanling laughed and said, others are afraid of this kind of people, but the people in the village deal with the land all day long. They and the education department have nothing to do with each other. If Zhang Jinhong hadn't stopped them from making trouble, they would have had a fit. Now Zhao Xinyu came to question, they must side with Zhao Xinyu. Wang Qing's face froze. This is a school, and I am the education director. Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly. Okay, since you are the education director, you are responsible for the salary of the school teachers, let alone the reconstruction of the school. There are a total of 72 teachers and 53 staff in the school. A teacher's monthly salary is 1 yuan. 10,000, 6,000 for staff, it's up to you to decide whether to spend the money. This sentence hit home. Wang Qingzai had no face to stay any longer. He waved his hands and left the stage, leaving the school without even looking back. He had already remembered Zhao Xinyu in his heart, but he never expected that everything would be broadcast live. Before he could return to the city, the disciplinary inspection department had already called him and asked him to come over for investigation. Those people walked away in despair. Zhao Xinyu walked up to the stage, picked up the microphone, and looked at the hundreds of parents below. Everyone, I am also from a rural area. I don't know anything else. I just want to say, people do things the way they do. Look, I just want our children to study hard so that one day in the future they will not return to life and be farmers like us, with their faces facing the lus and their backs to the sky. As soon as this sentence came out, hundreds of parents fell silent. The next moment they couldn't help but raise their hands and applaud as hard as they could. Although the words were short, they made sense. Zhao Xinyu expressed their feelings. A TV reporter who did not leave also broadcast this scene live, and Zhao Xinyu's words instantly spread throughout the Pengcheng area. Later, this sentence became an inspirational saying for many schools, and later became the inspirational saying of Xihanling School. Every principal's school management sayings. The school is not run for fame or profit, they just want to stop those hardworking peasant children from continuing their careers. Just this sentence gave people in Xihanling and the surrounding villages a deep understanding of Zhao Xinyu. After Zhao Xinyu finished speaking, he called Zhang Jinhong over and told Zhang Jinhong to take the parents to visit the canteen, teaching building, and dormitory. Then the TV station reported some things about Xihanling School. The school does not allow students to bring any snacks. The school distributes fruits to students every day. Each meal has at least 2 meat, 8 vegetarian and 10 dishes for students to choose from. The daily life of students' school supplies are distributed free of charge by the school. As soon as the news spread, not only the villagers, but also the citizens of the city were surprised. The total annual cost was 3,500, not to mention other dishes such as 2 meat and 8 vegetables were not enough, let alone other thing. Then they thought of what Zhao Xinyu said, and they finally understood that the school in Xihanling was not established for profit, but that they really wanted to make the children in the village no longer like their parents. Because Zhao Xinyu's words resonated with the society, many media reporters went to the school the next day to do an exclusive interview, but when they arrived at the school, they were rejected. No matter what they said, the school didn't even let me in. Xinyu, I, Zhao Ximing, have never admired anyone in my life. You really make me admire you for being a person like you. I failed so much in the past, and I regret it now just thinking about it. Zhao Xinyu looked at Zhao Ximing and said, Brother Ming, have you ever heard of the saying that a prodigal will never be replaced by gold? You are in your 40s this year, and there are still many days ahead of you. You have also discovered the attitude of the people in the village towards you now. This means that you are constantly changing yourself, and if you can change yourself, the children will be proud of you. Zhao Ximing and others nodded in unison. They used to be tyrannical in the village. Of course they knew how the villagers looked at them. After being buried in that landslide, only Zhao Xinyu took action. According to their family members, the villagers wished they would never wake up. Later, when they came to the big yard, the villagers' attitude towards them gradually changed, and they finally felt the kind of care they had when they were children. It was then that they truly felt regretful. Xinyu, no matter what, it's because of you that we can live uprightly now. From now on, if you make us go through mountains of swords and seas of fire, we will fight to the death. If anyone dares to go against you, we will chop him alive. As soon as Zhao Ximing said this, Jun Dan was slightly startled. Brother Ming, when you said this, I really remembered something. 2 days ago, a former buddy called me, tricked me, and asked Brother Xinyu about this. There are many things going on around me, and I have discovered in the past 2 days that there are many people of unknown origin around the compound. Do they want to do harm to Brother Xinyu? Zhao Ximing's eyes turned cold. Rogue guys, where are they? Zhao Xinyu's heart moved. He had experienced it and knew that those people were not something Zhao Ximing and others could deal with. He hurriedly called out to Zhao Xinyu and others. What we are doing, we are just guessing. They have not entered our yard. Besides, what will happen if they come in? You have forgotten Black Wind. Speaking of Haifeng, Zhao Xinyu and the others couldn't help but turn their heads to look at Haifeng, who was staying with Jin Hen and Jin Yu not far away. Several people shook their heads and laughed. They also tried to compete with Haifeng, but in the end, the 7 of them couldn't even get close to Haifeng. Even if Haifeng bumped into them lightly, they could all take their breath away. If this was someone who wanted to harm Zhao Xinyu come in, Black Wind will definitely show no mercy. At night, Zhao Xinyu and the others left. Zhao Xinyu, who was standing in front of the door, kept sighing. He just wanted to live the most peaceful life, but reality did not allow it. The greed of human nature made many people plot his formula. Before he returned to his hometown, at least 6 groups of people have been solved, but now Zhao Xinyu is not afraid of those who want to harm him, but he knows that it is difficult for 2 fists to defeat 4 hands. The people around him are all ordinary people, and he does not want the people around him to suffer along with him. When Zhao Xinyu was helpless and melancholy, the old man Guan Jintian laughed loudly at the Guan family in Yangcheng and extended his thumb. Tong Tong, you have cracked such a big case this time, and you have given us a divorce, unlike some people just drink tea and put on airs all day long. Guan Fei was slightly stunned. He did not have a son to follow his father's career and became a civil servant. This made his father very dissatisfied. Many times, his father compared himself with his daughter and ridiculed himself. Guan Fei smiled bitterly and looked at Guan Bingtong. Tong Tong, I heard that this time you went to Saibei alone to face 6 gun-wielding gangsters. This is too risky. Guan Bingtong smiled bitterly, and this time he pursued the key criminal alone. Although he did not catch the key criminal, he captured 6 of their right-hand men, and finally followed the clues and caught one of the key criminals. However, Guan Bingtong knew in her heart that if it weren't for Zhao Xinyu, it was still a question mark whether she could return to Yangcheng. During this period, she spent a lot of time thinking about the guy who made her shy several times, saw her naked, and caught her twice. That place, although she knew that Zhao Xinyu didn't mean it, she had never had such close contact with any man since she was a child, and the few times it was with him, it made her feel a little fluttering in her heart. The most important thing is that she has worshipped her grandfather since she was a child. Zhao Xinyu saved him twice, and the strength he showed was beyond his ability. This time, he severely injured 6 gangsters and knocked them unconscious in just a few breaths. Not to mention, even the bodyguards around her grandfather couldn't do it. This made her, who had infinite admiration for strength, regard Zhao Xinyu as her idol. As a result, the first thing she thought of many times was Zhao Xinyu. Seeing his granddaughter's pretty face turning red and her eyes constantly fluctuating, Guan Jintian was slightly startled and said, Tong Tong, what's wrong with you? Guan Bingtong sighed slightly, Grandpa, actually I didn't catch those 6 people this time, it was someone else who helped me. You didn't know that his hand was stronger than any of Uncle Ding's and those 6 gangsters. It only took him less than 10 breaths to knock them all down, and they didn't even have time to react. Guan Jintian was slightly startled. Tong Tong, what's going on? Guan Bingtong didn't hide anything and directly told his grandfather and father what happened that day. Guan Fei was surprised, while Guan Jintian frowned. He knew better than anyone what his granddaughter was capable of. From her description, he could imagine the person who took the action was not an ordinary person. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 97 Another Bowl. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Throwing the body into the space and cleaning up the blood on the ground, Zhao Xinyu frowned. After several actions, those people were able to reveal the identity of the ghost doctor with just 1 word. After this time, he finally understood why his grandfather specifically asked him to practice other techniques. The 5 God art and shadow follower were the techniques for which his grandfather became famous. Grandpa had been in the dark world for so many years, and his competitors had already studied him thoroughly. The five-god art, follow him everywhere, has become his signature, and it seems that he still needs to practice a few more techniques to hide his identity as a ghost doctor. Xinyu, what's going on? There are a lot of weeds in the grape forest. Hoeing them several times has no effect. How about we buy some herbicides? Zhao Xinyu came over this day. Zhao Xinyu chuckled, Brother Ming, we don't use any pesticides in our yard. If the news about the use of pesticides spreads, our reputation that we have accumulated for a year will be ruined. Don't pay attention to it. A little grass is not bad. It saves the money. It was bare with only some wild vegetables. On this night, when Zhao Xinyu distributed mid-autumn festival benefits to the villagers and school teachers, which were envied by everyone in the city, there was thunder and heavy rain, and the next morning, as soon as Zhao Xinyu got up, he heard a rapid knock on the door. Xinyu, hurry up, go to the grape grove, get rich, we want to get rich. Zhao Xinyu's face was full of excitement, and his words were a bit incoherent. Zhao Xinyu, who knew it well, was slightly startled and said, What's wrong? What else is going on? The grass in the grape grove is full of mushrooms, and there are morels that can be sold for hundreds of yuan per pound outside. Zhao Xinyu was born and raised in Xianling. Although he harmed the villagers at that time, he also knew many things. The appearance of wild mountain mushrooms in the compound had already surprised him. Now 3 kinds of mushrooms appeared again in the grape grove, and one of them was a morel mushroom that was both priceless and unavailable in the market. This surprised him. I don't understand how this wasteland that has been deserted for many years can grow anything in Zhao Xinyu's hands. I'll go take a look at the morels. They're good for making soup, Zhao Xinyu said with a hint of excitement. Quickly walk towards the grape grove where I don't know how many times I go every day. After these days of picking, the grapes in the grape grove are no longer as dense as they were at the beginning. But according to Zhao Xinyu and others, even the grapes in the grape grove now are much more than those in the grape groves in other areas. The 1-foot-high grass in the grape grove is densely packed with mushrooms and wild vegetables. The wild vegetables are fresh and tender with drops of water on them. The mushrooms are fresh, many of them have just emerged from the ground. Wild mountain mushrooms, morels, coppery mushrooms, there appear to be more green mushrooms than grass. Brother Ming, you really got it. Find someone to pick it. I'll give Mengnan a call. She will definitely be happy. Xinyu, I can see that wherever you go, there is a treasure. Look at this green grass. We never had it here before. Not only is grass growing now, but also morels can grow here. The price of Caprinus comatus is quite high, but I haven't seen what this green mushroom is, and I don't know if it can be eaten. Brother Ming, these are green mushrooms. We have them over there. They taste very good and have their own advantages with wild mountain mushrooms. 3 kinds of mushrooms suddenly appeared in the grape forest. As the general manager of Pengcheng Hotel, Du Mengnan was naturally happy. After receiving the call, she rushed over. After seeing the mushrooms everywhere, one can imagine Du Mengnan's excitement. Zhao Xinyu, can you make soup? Morel soup is the most nutritious. I'll give it a try. Zhao Xinyu rolled his eyes and said with a smile. There are mushrooms there. When Zhao Xinyu was picking morels, Han Li and the others rushed over after receiving the news. When they heard that Zhao Xinyu was going to make soup, they instantly decided to stay and taste the soup cooked by Zhao Xinyu. Morel soup. When Zhao Xinyu returned, Du Mengnan and the others took photos and videos in the grape grove, and then uploaded them to Moments. Feeling that it was almost time, they all swarmed to the yard. Just entering the courtyard, Du Mengnan and the others were shocked. Everyone couldn't help but swallow a few mouthfuls of saliva. At this moment, the entire courtyard was filled with a strong fragrance. Just saying that the fragrance was refreshing, let alone the soup. Smell. Han Li and the others were all born and raised in Xianling. They had also tasted morel soup, but they had never smelled this fragrance. Du Mengnan owns the Pengcheng Hotel, a 5-star hotel with countless famous chefs. She has tasted morel soup before, but this is the first time she has smelled such fragrant morel soup. the temptation of the fragrance made them not even go to the restaurant, but poured directly into the kitchen. In the kitchen, there was a large basin of milky white soup, with a little butterfly floating on the soup. Zhao Xinyu glanced at the crowd who kept swallowing their saliva. He smiled faintly, took a small bowl, filled a small bowl and handed it to Du Mengnan. Mengnan, be careful, the soup has just come out. Du Mengnan reached out to take it and took a deep breath. The temptation of the fragrance made her not even bother to pick up the spoon and took a sip directly. The delicious taste made Du Mengnan a little intoxicated. When Zhao Xinyu served Zhao Ximing a bowl, Han Li's bowl had already been stretched out before he served Jundan and the others. Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled, and looked at Han Li, so fast. Han Li wiped his mouth and said, "This soup tastes so good. Hurry up and have another bowl." Zhao Xinyu's eyes flickered a few times. "Aren't you hot?" Han Li was slightly startled, and Han Jun, Lu Ming and others who had already drank a bowl were also startled. Only then did they feel a burning sensation in their mouths. Ah! Several people rushed to the faucet and drank the sweet spring water to relieve the burning pain in their mouths. This scene fell into Du Mengnan's eyes. Du Mengnan laughed so hard that tears streamed down her face. She lost no time in taking pictures of this scene. Few minutes later, Han Li and the others felt better, came back again, picked up the small bowls, and asked, "One more bowl?" In less than 20 minutes, a large bowl of morel soup was drank by everyone. "Zhao Xinyu, how can you make this soup taste like this? Do you have any secrets?" Zhao Xinyu looked at Du Mengnan. "Meng, in fact, every ingredient has its original taste. Knowing its original taste, and adding supplementary materials to stimulate its original taste, this kind of taste is the most authentic." Hearing what Zhao Xinyu said, Du Mengnan seemed to understand a little bit. He looked at Zhao Xinyu and asked, "Are all the dishes you cook like this?" Zhao Xinyu nodded. "If you want to be a real chef, you must understand the original taste of each ingredient. As long as you understand the original taste of the ingredients, no matter what dish you make, you can make it top-notch. Can you teach Master Li in our hotel how to make soup?" "Of course, you call him and I'll talk to him." At noon on this day, Pengcheng Hotel and Farmhouse launched morel and green mushroom soup at the same time. In just one noon, the two soups became popular in Pengcheng. To use one word from diners, they can't help but have another bowl, and even their tongues want to swallow it after one bite. The most common complaint from diners is that the soup tastes too tempting. After drinking the soup, they went to the hospital to see a doctor. I don't know how many diners burned their mouths during the afternoon because the soup tasted so good. In any case, the wild mountain mushrooms, morels, caprinas, and green mushrooms in the grape grove have become another signature of the compound in a short period of time. Pengcheng Hotel and the compound have once again become the subject of heated discussion due to the emergence of morels, copri mushrooms and green mushrooms. In a private room of a 5-star hotel, Hu Zhenyu looked gloomy and stared at the delicious dishes on the table. He didn't even want to move his chopsticks. He has always believed that Du Mengnan was his woman. Some time ago, he specifically begged his grandfather to find someone to go to Du's house, but he didn't want to be rejected several times in succession, which already made him embarrassed. Now Du Mengnan and Zhao Xinyu, who he regarded as a country bumpkin, were getting closer and closer, which made him even more angry. So now every time he heard about the relationship between Du Mengnan and Zihanling, he had an urge to kill. With a soft knock on the door, Hu Zhenyu's eyes turned cold, and he turned around and was about to get angry, but when he saw Zhang Mingkue coming in, Hu Zhenyu's expression softened slightly. "Mingkue, how's it going? The person we were looking for failed, and he hasn't returned yet. Someone is secretly protecting Zhao Xinyu. The person we are looking for this time is not an ordinary person. He is also very famous in the dark world." Hu Zhenyu narrowed his eyes and said, "Then our 3 million was not in vain. Master Hu, it won't be in vain. They have their rules. If the task is not completed, they will send people there again. If they still fail after 3 times, they will return our commission in full and give us 50%. Compensation." Hu Zhenyu nodded. "All this was caused by that bitch Du Mengnan. If it hadn't been for him, the Du family would definitely not have sent someone to protect that bastard. Since I can't get it, no one else can get it either. Minkue, go make arrangements. I want that bitch to never be able to see anyone. Seeing that another year's Mid-Autumn Festival is coming soon, Zhao Xinyu and the others discussed that during this year's Mid-Autumn Festival, everyone would have a dinner together in the courtyard to have fun together. On the 14th day, Zhao Xinyu was sitting outside enjoying the cool air. When the black wind passed by him, Zhao Xinyu suddenly thought of what happened the night before the Mid-Autumn Festival last year. He couldn't help but shake his head. The incident last year had become a shadow for him. Every time this day came, he couldn't help but think of what happened last year, and just when he was about to go to the room, the phone suddenly rang. When he saw that there was no number displayed on the phone, Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled. Mr. Du Gongdu's call came so late. Zhao Xinyu suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 98, Treating Du Mengnan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Xinyu, come to 328 Main Hospital. Du Gang's anxious voice came over the phone. With just one sentence, Du Gang hung up the phone. In the emergency room of the 328 General Hospital, doctors and nurses were busy. On the emergency table, a bloody figure lay quietly. If it weren't for the pleated skirt he was wearing, no one would think that the figure lying there was a human being. Girl, there was no movement on the girl's body at this moment, even her chest was rising and falling vaguely. The first aid was too far away, and the lines on the life instrument had almost become flat. Outside the emergency room, Du Gang looked solemn. Du Yongchang, his wife, and Du Shichang had anxious faces, and there were also tears in their eyes. They never imagined that Du Mengnan, who was so lively when walking, would have such bad luck. While waiting for the traffic light, bad luck came and he was hit head-on by a large truck that ran out of control, and during the more than half an hour of the first aid, the hospital had issued 5 critical illness notifications. If it weren't for Du Gang's identity, perhaps the doctors at the main hospital would have given up on the first aid. When the door of the emergency room opened again, Du Yongchang and his wife were the first to go over, but when they saw the dim eyes of the emergency experts, they instantly collapsed on the ground. Later, Du Mengnan, who was covered with white cloth, was pushed out. Du Yongchang and his wife struggled to get up, lay on the stretcher, and cried bitterly. Du Gang couldn't help but look up to the sky and sigh, and 2 lines of old tears were shed in an instant. Du Mengnan was the child he had grown up with, and now the white-haired man was giving away the black-haired man. Du Gang, with his status, couldn't help but shed tears. There was a rush of footsteps, and Du Gang saw Zhao Xinyu's figure. He burst into tears. He didn't know what would happen next. Seeing Du Gang, Du Yongchang, his wife, and Du Shichang lying there wailing, Zhao Xinyu's heart ached inexplicably, and the heartbreaking feeling made him breathless. Walking to the bedside, Zhao Xinyu reached out and held the blood-stained jade hand in his hand, tears bursting out. The next moment, Zhao Xinyu's body shook, and his index finger instantly rested on Du Mengnan's wrist. Push it back, Mengnan can still be saved. Sir, please calm down, we have done our best, a head nurse in her 50s said with a hint of regret. When Du Gang heard what Zhao Xinyu said, his eyes flashed with light. Others might be too sad when they spoke, but he knew that Zhao Xinyu was not an ordinary person. Du Gang raised his hand and pushed it back. The doctors and nurses at number 328 hospital, who didn't know the old man Du Gang, even spoke out, but they were unwilling to push Du Mengnan back to the emergency room again. Grandpa, don't let anyone in. Zhao Xinyu said this while driving the doctors and nurses out of the emergency room. Zhao Xinyu in the emergency room threw away the white cloth covering Du Mengnan's body and reached into his pocket. When he took his hand out, a blackened skin bag appeared on his hand. The skin bag was opened, and a handful of golden light filled the air. As the aura on his body fluctuated slightly, 9 wood attribute gold needles sank into Du Mengnan's chest. When the wood attribute gold needles began to tremble, 9 water attribute gold needles were released. In less than a minute, 45 golden needles covered Du Mengnan's chest and head. The golden needles trembled, and Zhao Xinyu's hands kept moving and patting Du Mengnan's body. The initial speed was very fast, and then the movements became slower and slower, and it was only in the last 10 seconds that a photo could be taken. At this moment, Zhao Xinyu's face and body were covered with big drops of sweat, and his clothes were completely soaked. Yeah, a slight moan came, and Zhao Xinyu's nervous expression relaxed. His big hands were gently placed on Du Mengnan's body, gently kneading and massaging. With the massage, streaks of congestion with black blood clots flowed out of Du Mengnan's mouth. As the congestion continued to be drained, Du Mengnan's chest finally began to rise and fall. Seeing this scene, there was a slight fluctuation in Zhao Xinyu's eyes. He retracted his hand and began to examine Du Mengnan's body. As the sound of bones colliding came, Du Mengnan's twisted parts slowly recovered. A few minutes later, when the golden needles stopped trembling again, Zhao Xinyu took the golden needles off Du Mengnan's body, put them into his skin bag, and then walked towards the door of the ward. Zhao Xinyu seemed to expend a lot of energy with every step he took. With a click, the emergency room door opened. Du Gang, Du Yongchang, his wife, and Du Shichang all looked at Zhao Xinyu, who looked a little gray. Their hearts sank at the same time. Xinyu, how is Meng? When Du Gang asked this question, he seemed to have exhausted all his strength. It's okay. You can recover after resting for a while. Tell the doctors at the hospital not to deal with Mengman's wounds. I will deal with the wounds. They only need to add some nutrition to Meng. Remember not to let them deal with Mengman's injuries. I am a little tired, find me a room and I'll take a rest. Was such a contrast that not only the Du family members, but also the experts and head nurses present all exclaimed in surprise. They performed first aid for nearly an hour, using the best doctors and the best equipment. After confirming that the patient was dead, they came out to announce it, and now, less than an hour after this young man went in, he came out and said that the injured person was not life-threatening. How could they believe this? Nurse Lee, take this gentleman to rest. The head nurse spoke immediately. After a young nurse took Zhao Xinyu away, the experts, head nurse, Du Gang, Du Yongchang and his wife, and Du Shichang all entered the emergency room. They saw Du Mengnan still lying there quietly, but the rising and falling chest told them that Du Mengnan had indeed been rescued. After installing the instruments, a few minutes later, the first aid expert's eyes were filled with horror, and an incredible exclamation came out of his mouth. This is amazing. He saw that Du Mengnan's vital signs were stable at the moment. If the instrument alone showed that Du Mengnan was only suffering from a little blood loss, seeing Du Mengnan breathing evenly, a faint smile appeared on Du Gang's face. He turned his head and looked at the emergency experts who kept exclaiming. You are a quack. When the nearly 60-year-old first aid expert heard what Du Gang said, his face was full of embarrassment. Old leader, Du Gang waved his hand. I know you have tried your best to give my granddaughter a comprehensive checkup. You heard what I said just now. You only need to check and do not perform any treatment. Okay, the first aid expert agreed repeatedly. Finally, his eyes flickered a few times. Old leader, that gentleman just now was my granddaughter's boyfriend. How do your medical skills fare in front of him? He is really a miracle doctor. He created a medical miracle. Also arrange a few rooms for us, we will be here for the next few days. After saying this, Du Gang looked at Du Shichang. Second brother, you stay here to guard Meng. Let's take a rest first. In a luxurious private room, Hu Zhenyu looked at the excited Zhang Mingkue and said, Mingkue, how are things going? The car was completely destroyed. When Du Mengnan was carried out, the doctors and nurses all shook their heads. He must be hopeless and is now being sent to the 328th General Hospital. There was a trace of regret in Hu Zhenyu's eyes. It's a pity. The funeral affairs should be handled properly and there shouldn't be any clues left. Don't worry, Mr. Hu. The driver who caused the accident also died on the spot. The car was a scrapped vehicle that has been cancelled. The chassis number and engine number have been specially processed. They will not find any clues. Very good, there are 500,000 here, take it and take care of it. At the general hospital, Zhao Xinyu didn't know how long he slept. When he got up, his body bones felt weak, which made him smile bitterly. This cultivation level was still not enough. He only treated Du Mengnan, and the internal energy in his body was almost exhausted. After washing his face, Zhao Xinyu went to the emergency room. Then he heard that Du Mengnan was arranged to a separate ward, and he followed him there. When Du Shichang, who was guarding Du Mengnan, saw Zhao Xinyu coming in, his face lit up and said, "Xinyu, rest well. Second uncle, let me take a look at Mengnan." After checking Du Mengnan, Zhao Xinyu let out a sigh of relief. Du Mengnan was no longer in danger. "Xinyu, you are really amazing. I also read the examination report. All the broken and shattered bones in Mengman's body were perfectly reattached, and the bleeding in the internal organs was also stopped. The examination said it was incredible. You are how to do it. Second uncle, there must be a reason why Chinese medicine can be passed down for thousands of years. I will go back home first and make some ointment for Mengman. Mengman has too many injuries. If she doesn't take care of it well, I won't let her give it to her in the future." Tidy, Du Shichang laughed and said, "Okay, I'll arrange a car for you." When Zhao Xinyu left the hospital, experts from various departments gathered in the conference room of the general hospital. This is incredible. Not only did the injured who were declared dead be revived, but all the broken bones and collapsed internal organs were repaired without surgery. "This is the first time I have heard of this," said a white-haired man. The Tsang expert held several films and sighed while watching them. "Who wouldn't tell me? You don't know how stressed I was at that time," the first aid expert said with a sigh. "Lao Li, were you there when that young man treated Du's granddaughter?" "No, we have all been kicked out, but there is surveillance in the emergency room. I have pulled out the surveillance for everyone to watch." A few minutes later, the conference room was silent. They saw Zhao Xinyu's every move in the surveillance video. His techniques were extremely fast, and he only used acupuncture and massage in traditional Chinese medicine throughout the process. "Do you understand?" A gray-haired old man asked, looking at the people in the conference room. The group of people smiled bitterly and shook their heads. An old man sighed, "This is the real Chinese medicine. If all Chinese medicine doctors are like him, how can Chinese medicine decline? Today I finally saw the wonders of Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine is really not Western medicine. Comparable." At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 99 Real Chinese Medicine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. These words instantly silenced dozens of people in the conference room. Traditional Chinese medicine has been in decline for hundreds of years. Not only in the eyes of experts like them, who have specialized in Western medicine for decades, but also in the eyes of many ordinary people, traditional Chinese medicine is just a charlatan. Money is a profession, and now even the most authoritative experts among them have announced that the patient is dead, but they are stunned to have a Chinese medicine doctor use a pair of golden needles that dazzle them and a set of massage techniques that they can't understand to pull a dead injured person from the gate of hell. Based on this alone, no one among them could do it, and they asked themselves that even the top doctors in Western medicine could not do it. Lao Li, what's that young man's name? Zhao Xinyu, the white-haired old man frowned when he heard this name. He had vaguely heard this name somewhere, and he hadn't mentioned it alone. Suddenly his eyes narrowed, and he thought that he had heard this name somewhere. This name was the person Hua Bai, the leading Chinese medicine doctor in China, had been looking for. I know who he is. Thinking about the rumors about Zhao Xinyu, the old man couldn't help but feel happy. Tong Lao, you know who he is. You should still remember the assessment of traditional Chinese medicine in Yangqing some time ago. These words made everyone slightly startled. Although the Chinese medicine assessment is conducted every year, this time the Chinese medicine assessment is different from the past. The young generation of the 4 major Chinese medicine families have all gone to Yangcheng. But in the end, among the 4 major traditional Chinese medicine families and dozens of people who participated in the assessment, only one young man named Zhao Xinyu stood out and even called Hua Bai, the most famous person in China, his little brother. I just said why this name is so familiar. It turns out to be him. It doesn't mean that Mr. Hua has been looking for his whereabouts. Logically speaking, he has such superb Chinese medicine skills and must have a great background. Why haven't we heard of him in Pengcheng? Tong Zhanshan shook his head. How could you have heard of him? What he does has nothing to do with traditional Chinese medicine. Of course you won't know about him. Tong Zhanshan sighed. He grew vegetables and fish in Zaihanling. If he is related to traditional Chinese medicine, he only researched the ancient Chinese medicine anti-counterfeiting marks on Qingguoqingqing and Purple Emperor. At this moment, everyone in the conference room stared blankly at the young man who was frozen on the big screen. Although they were old and the beauty of the country was not attractive to them, the Purple Emperor and the newly launched Zui Linglong was sought after by them. The ancient Chinese medicine anti-counterfeiting marks used by Purple Emperor and Qingguoqingqing have excited countless people. It is rumored that several giants in China and the West even spent $1 billion to purchase anti-counterfeiting marks, but in the end nothing happened. They didn't expect that all this was done by a young man in his 20s. He was surprised to be able to do things that many masters of traditional Chinese medicine could not do. Mr. Tong, you are familiar with Mr. Du. Can you please introduce me through Mr. Du and invite Zhao Xinyu to our main hospital? You also know that the current Chinese medicine department of the main hospital is. Tong Zhanshan smiled bitterly and said, do you think my reputation is greater than that of Mr. Hua? That everyone was silent for a moment. Zhao Xinyu studied ancient Chinese medicine. If he didn't have a special liking for Chinese medicine, his Chinese medicine skills would definitely not have reached the current achievements, and he didn't even give face to Mr. Hua Bai, the master of traditional Chinese medicine. Instead of inheriting traditional Chinese medicine, he went to Zaihanling to grow vegetables and raise fish. He would deign to go to the main hospital to take charge of the traditional Chinese medicine department. After a long time, Tong Zhanshan stood up and pointed at the big screen. Everyone, please study it carefully. I'll go find Mr. Du and give it a try. When Zhao Xinyu returned to the compound, he locked himself in the basement for most of the day. No one knew what he was doing. When he came out, he looked a little tired and had 2 big bags in his hands. In Du Mengnan's ward of the General Hospital, Du Gang and Du Yongchang felt slightly distressed when they saw Zhao Xinyu coming back with a big bag, and when they saw Zhao Xinyu's tired face, everyone in the Du family knew what Du Gang thought about Zhao Xinyu. Although Zhao Xinyu was very good, Du Yongchang always felt that he was not worthy of his daughter, but this time Zhao Xinyu brought his daughter back from hell, which greatly touched Du Yongchang, so he no longer looked at Zhao Xinyu the same way as before. Xinyu, the doctor just came over and said that if Mengman's wound is not treated, it will be very troublesome even if she needs plastic surgery in the future. Du Yongchang asked with a hint of expectation. Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled. Uncle, why do you need plastic surgery? They will definitely leave scars when treating the wounds, so plastic surgery is needed. Didn't I go back and prepare ointment? Mengnan will be able to return to her original appearance in half a month at most. There won't be a single scar left on the body. Wang Qing's face lit up. I'm going to find a doctor right now and ask them to give Mengnan medicine. They are all quacks. Let Xinyu treat Mengnan. I only believe in Xinyu. Du Gang waved his hand. Wang Qing's expression froze. Dad, Mengnan is a girl. Du Gang curled his lips and said, what girl? She is Xinyu's wife, and Xinyu is not an outsider. These words made Zhao Xinyu, Du Yongchang, and Wang Qing instantly embarrassed. Du Yongchang's eyes flickered a few times. Dad is right. Mengman's injury is so serious. If something goes wrong, it will be too late to regret. Let Xinyu come. You can help me. Seeing Du Yongchang say this, Zhao Xinyu felt happy. He had also heard Du Mengnan say that only his father was a little resistant in the family. Now that Du Yongchang said this, it must be that Du Yongchang agreed with them both. Du Yongchang and Du Gang left, and Zhao Xinyu and Wang Qing took off Du Mengnan's hospital clothes. Only when Zhao Xinyu applied the ointment did Wang Qing know why his father said that just now, when Zhao Xinyu applies the ointment, he does not apply it directly. Instead, each wound needs to be massaged and patted to remove all the congestion and impurities from the wound. Not only did he go to help, but just by looking at him, Wang Qing felt dizzy. This was not something ordinary people could do. After spending more than half an hour applying ointment to all the wounds, Wang Qing found that Zhao Xinyu seemed more tired, which made him a little confused. Zhao Xinyu checked Du Mengnan's pulse, and a faint smile appeared on his face. "Aunt, Meng will wake up soon, and I will make a soup for her." Less than 5 minutes after Zhao Xinyu left, Du Mengnan groaned several times, slowly opened his eyes, and murmured, "Where is this? Meng, you're awake, you scared us to death." Wang Qing was so excited that her eyes filled with tears when she saw her daughter waking up. "Mom, where is this?" When Wang Qing told Du Mengnan what happened, Du Mengnan's eyes were full of horror. She didn't expect that just waiting for a traffic light would lead to her passing through the gate of hell. "Mom, what's wrong with my face? Why is it itchy?" Du Mengnan wanted to raise his hand to touch Ixia's face, but there was no strength in his arm. "Why? How do I go to see people?" Du Mengnan was anxious when she heard about her injuries. Girls love beauty, but now there are scars all over her body, which makes her, who has always been conceited about her appearance, simply unable to accept it. "You kid, I haven't finished speaking yet. Xinyu just treated all your wounds and applied ointment. He said you will be able to recover in half a month at most, without leaving any scars on your body." Although Du Mengnan had already determined that Zhao Xinyu was her significant other, and they often had intimate behaviors, applying ointment to herself in front of her mother still made Du Mengnan extremely shy. Wang Qing smiled faintly when he saw his daughter's reaction. "Your grandfather has always regarded Xinyu as his own family, and your father also agreed. Anyway, sooner or later, that day will come, so it doesn't matter." "Mom, my dad agreed." Wang Qing nodded. "This kid Xinyu is indeed excellent. You are lucky to be with him. But Meng, this kid Xinyu's character is not good, but I can see that he is particularly popular with women. In the future, there are many competitors." "He dares," Du Mengnan said coquettishly. "Don't you dare." When Du Mengnan finished his words, Zhao Xinyu pushed the door in with a bowl of soup. "Meng, you have missed too much study and your body is still very weak. Get more rest." After putting down the decoction, Zhao Xinyu looked at Du Mengnan and said with a hint of distress, "Zhao Xinyu, my injury won't have any impact on me." Meeting. Zhao Xinyu said seriously. The expressions of Du Mengnan and Wang Qing changed. Zhao Xinyu still said seriously, "You can't eat too much while you are in the hospital. If you eat too much, your body will be out of shape. Don't let yourself become 200 in a month. A fat man weighing 5 pounds. Get lost," Du Mengnan said angrily, and Wang Qing couldn't help but shake his head. Although the injury was serious, Du Mengnan was completely reassured by Zhao Xinyu's words, and she no longer had to worry about her appearance. "Zhao Xinyu, I want to drink the crucian carp soup you made." Zhao Xinyu chuckled. "I thought of it a long time ago. I made medicated crucian carp soup for you. You drink the medicine first." Wang Qing gave her daughter medicine, and Zhao Xinyu took out the cooked soup from a big bag. When the lid was opened, a scent with a hint of Chinese medicine began to fill the ward. Although it smelled like Chinese medicine, Du Mengnan, Wang Qing still couldn't help but swallow a few mouthfuls of saliva. "Auntie, I stewed a little more of the medicinal food. You are also exhausted, so you should drink a little." Just as Zhao Xinyu finished speaking, the ward door opened and Du Gang came in from the outside. Du Gang's face was very serious at this moment. "Mr. Du." Du Gang looked at Zhao Xinyu. "Xinyu, the granddaughter of an old friend of mine had an accident just now. The situation there is more serious, and the doctors are helpless to do anything to her. She called me just now and wanted to ask for your help. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 100 Traditional Chinese Medicine Surgery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Zhao Xinyu was slightly stunned. He knew Du Gang's identity. Not to mention Yangqing, there should be his old friends in many places, and these old friends should have the same identity as Du Gang, that is, they all contributed to the founding of China. Figure, however, he could hear a clue from Du Gang's words, that is, the condition of the granddaughter of Du Gang's old friend was not optimistic, and it was more likely that like Du Mengnan, her life was in danger. Dad, is it Tong Tong? Wan Qing's expression changed a few times and he lost his voice. Du Gang nodded, that's Tong Tong. When she was arresting the important criminal, she was ambushed by the other party. She was the only one who went with her to survive. However, her injuries were too serious and 2 bullets were lodged in her heart. Between the blood vessels will burst as long as they move. The hospital has issued a critical illness notice, and experts there have not found any effective method until now. Wan Qing's expression changed again, and she glanced at Du Mengnan on the hospital bed. Ku Mengmeng just woke up, she. Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly and glanced at the weak Du Mengnan. Auntie, Mengmeng is okay. I have prepared an ointment at home. You can just apply it on Mengmeng's wound. Remember to just apply the ointment. Do not let the hospital use medicine. Give it to me. Just put some saline solution on him and wait until I come back. In the expert consultation room of Yangqing First People's Hospital, 6 experts of different ages looked at the images projected on the big screen, frowning. One of them even had gray hair, but he did not wear a white coat like the other 5, but wore a greasy shirt. Although he had silver hair, his face was as rosy as a baby. Mr. Hua, this is the situation. The key now is the 2 bullets between his heart veins. Not to mention surgery, the patient will suffocate if she moves. If Zhao Xinyu were in the expert consultation room at this moment, he would definitely recognize the gray-haired old man at a glance. It was the old man he met when he was taking the Chinese medicine examination last time. Hua Bai, the leading Chinese medicine doctor in China. Hua Bai also frowned. Although Hua Tuo, the ancestor of the Hua family, pioneered the surgical operation, he knew how difficult this operation was. If there was even the slightest mistake, Guan Bingtong's blood vessels would break, and even the great Luo immortal would not be able to do it. Anyway, Hua Bai sighed slightly and looked at an old man in his 60s, Tang Chong. How sure are you? Tang Chong is the #1 surgeon at Yangqing First People's Hospital. Not only in the Yangqing area, but also in the whole of China, Tang Chong is highly regarded, and many of his surgeries are used as models for some medical schools. It can be seen from these. It shows how strong Tang Chong's medical skills are. Tang Chong smiled bitterly. Mr. Hua, I'm not even 10% sure. I think even if Smith, the top surgical expert, comes over now, he won't be able to do anything. You should understand what I mean. You are familiar with Mr. Guan. I think we should say hello to Mr. Guan in advance. Now it depends on the patient's will to survive. If by a miracle, the warhead falls off, she will have hope of surviving. Hua Bai shook his head and sighed. He walked out of the consultation room. In another room, an old man in his 90s sighed, his face full of solemnity. Several middle-aged men and women had red and swollen eyes. One of them, a woman in her 50s, slumped on a chair, covering her face and sobbing continuously. When Hua Bai opened the door and came in, everyone looked at Hua Bai with a hint of expectation. Hua Bai smiled bitterly and looked at Guan Jintian. Lao Guan, it's difficult, just prepare yourself. As soon as Hua Bai said these words, the whole room burst into mourning, and the middle-aged woman who was slumped in the chair even fainted. Don't cry, there may be hope after a while. As soon as Guan Jintian said these words, not only the Guan family, but also Hua Bai were stunned. Lao Guan, even Tang Chong can't do anything, who else can you ask? Just as Hua Bai finished speaking, the door opened and a middle-aged man pushed the door in and said, Old Guan, the person you are looking for is here. Where? Guan Jintian's solemn face finally showed a hint of expectation. The middle-aged man turned aside, and Zhao Xinyu came in from the outside. He glanced at the people in the room, and then was slightly startled when he saw Hua Bai, but thinking about what he looked like at that time, Zhao Xinyu felt relieved, and his eyes instantly shifted to Guan Jintian. You are Mr. Guan Jintian, and I am Zhao Xinyu. As soon as his name came out, Hua Bai's expression suddenly became strange. When Zhao Xinyu came in, he felt familiar, but for a while he couldn't remember where he had seen Zhao Xinyu. Now that Zhao Xinyu introduced himself as a family member, he immediately thought of the unkempt, stinky guy who called himself little brother. Go to the ward quickly. Guan Jintian didn't have time to say anything at the moment. Zhao Xinyu nodded. When he saw Hua Bai with a strange expression, Zhao Xinyu also knew that Hua Bai must recognize him. He nodded to Hua Bai. Hello, old man. Hua Bai laughed and said, Hello, big brother. This time, Guan Jintian and the others were confused. A gray-haired old man called a young boy eldest brother, and this old man was also a leading Chinese medicine practitioner. They couldn't figure out the relationship between the two. Several experts in the consultation room heard that Guan Jintian invited a young boy to come over. When they were surprised, they also had some opinions on Guan Jintian's approach. They immediately got up and went to the ward. In a quiet ward, Zhao Xinyu saw Guan Bingtong on the hospital bed. He was slightly startled and couldn't help but smile bitterly. He and Guan Bingtong were really destined. Zhao Xinyu didn't say anything, moved a stool and sat in front of the hospital bed, stretched out a finger and put it on Guan Bingtong's wrist. This move made the Guan family even more confused. They all turned to look at Hua Bai, only to see Hua Bai's eyes filled with brilliance. As the door of the ward rang, Tang Chong and others came in from the outside. After seeing Zhao Xinyu, they shook their heads. In their hearts, even if Zhao Xinyu learned medicine from his mother's womb, he would not be higher than Hua Xinyu. Bai and Hua Bai were all helpless, and a young boy was even more helpless. After a moment, Zhao Xinyu retracted his finger and looked at Hua Bai. Old man, there is a foreign body between the patient's heart and pulse. The patient's breathing will cause the foreign body to constantly rub against the heart pulse. If the foreign body is not taken out, the patient will not survive tomorrow. Tang Chong frowned. Everyone knows this, the key is not to operate. Zhao Xinyu smiled lightly and said, it's not necessarily impossible to get it out without surgery. Tang Chong's expression changed. Young man, anyone can speak big words. Zhao Xinyu shook his head and looked at Hua Bai. Old man, how far have you achieved the 9 lives and 9 deaths needle? Hua Bai was shocked. The 9 lives and 9 deaths needle was a secret of the Hua family. He didn't know where Zhao Xinyu knew that the Hua family had the 9 lives and 9 deaths needle. 7 lives and 7 deaths. That's enough. You can use raw acupuncture to help me protect the patient's heart while I take out the foreign body. You. Tang Chong finally couldn't help it. Hua Bai's eyes flickered a few times. Tang Chong, there is no other way now, we can only try his method. Zhao Xinyu glanced at Guan Jintian and said, Mr. Guan, when I take action later, don't make any sound. Guan Jintian nodded and looked at Tang Chong and others. Tang Chong and the others were stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly, but they still nodded. They wanted to see how this young boy could save the girl. Zhao Xinyu looked at the rest of the Guan family and said, it will be bloody later, please wait outside. After the Guan family went out, Zhao Xinyu reached out and untied the bandage on Guan Bingtong's chest. After seeing the huge pair, Zhao Xinyu's heart skipped a beat, but then he calmed down and took out the Hongmeng 5 Elements needle from his backpack. When the golden light flashed, Tang Chong and the others' expressions instantly became solemn this time. Although they study Western medicine, they also know that not all Chinese medicine practitioners can use golden needles. Those who can use golden needles are all masters of traditional Chinese medicine like Hua Bai. Hua Bai's eyes lit up and he whispered, 5 elements golden needle, Zhao Xinyu nodded. The next moment, Tang Chong and the others suddenly felt that there seemed to be a breeze blowing in the ward. This surprised them because the door and windows of the ward were not open at this moment, and the wind from the air conditioner was not that strong at all. The next moment they were stunned. Zhao Xinyu took action, and 9 wood-type gold needles penetrated Guan Bingtong's chest. As the Hongmeng 5 elements needle buzzed, Tang Chong and the others reacted. The old man takes action. As a handful of golden light flashed, 7 golden needles sank into Guan Bingtong's chest. As Hua Bai's fingers moved slightly, the 7 golden needles trembled. Zhao Xinyu reached out and took out a knife and cut open Guan Bingtong's wound. The next moment, Tang Chong and the others felt the wind getting stronger. They saw Zhao Xinyu suddenly stretch out his big hand and put it on Guan Bingtong's chest. The other hand suddenly lifted Guan Bingtong up, which made Tang Chong and the others couldn't help but let out a low cry. They knew that if Guan Bingtong moved even slightly at this moment, his life would be in danger. The next scene shocked them even more. After Zhao Xinyu helped Guan Bingtong up, he slapped a hand heavily on the back of Guan Bingtong's heart, and the hand on his chest was instantly stained red with blood. "What are you going to do?" Tang Chong asked angrily. "If you talk again, get out." While Zhao Xinyu was speaking, he bent his palm into a fist and hit Guan Bingtong on the back of the heart, once, twice, one after another. Guan Bingtong's back turned blood red, and blood surged from Guan Bingtong's mouth. There was a trace of anger in Tang Chong's eyes after being scolded. He had been sought after as a doctor for decades, but now he was being scolded by a young boy in front of so many people. How could he accept it? Just when he was about to step forward to stop him, Hua Bai looked at him and shook his head at him. Only then did Tang Chong see that Hua Bai's eyes were full of shock. After a few more minutes, Zhao Xinyu suddenly stopped. He put Guan Bingtong back on the hospital bed and took back the hand that was pressed on his chest. When he opened his palms, Tang Chong and the others saw that Zhao Xinyu had 2 palms. A bullet covered in blood. At the same time, they also saw that Zhao Xinyu's face was gray at the moment, and the casual clothes he was wearing were soaked with sweat. "Old man, I'll leave the rest of the conditioning to you. I'm going to take a rest." Guan Jintian also reacted at this time. He immediately went out and called a middle-aged woman in, asking him to take Zhao Xinyu to rest. After Zhao Xinyu left, Guan Jintian looked at Tang Chong and others. "You see, this is Chinese medicine, the Chinese medicine you look down on." At this moment, the faces of Tang Chong and others became very ugly. They did not stay any longer and left one by one with their heads hanging down. "Lao Guan, how do you know Zhao Xinyu?" "I also heard an old friend talk about him. My old friend's granddaughter also had an accident, and he was the one who brought her back from the dead." At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises.